excuse me, give you guys an idea of where we're going, what we're doing, why we're doing it. I think we're about to start our off-season track on the 23rd of June, somewhere around to October. I think it's going to be 12 to 14 weeks. And basically, most of this video will be talking about that. But there's some general things of why we're doing that and what we're going to be doing, and just some general things that are on the menu kind of thing. So I think what it seems is what we had this past season, I know we're currently like kind of in season, but Rebel Renegade Games definitely seems to be the comp that we all want to try push for. It has the widest variety of tests, whether you're team or individual. All the best people go there, and their programming usually is quite encompassing of normally they mostly test everything from there. I think other comps have their slight biases in terms of what they do. I think like PTA Throwdown, I think we're probably never going to see like handstand walks, for example, at least at that venue currently. So like kind of each place has their limitations. And it's not to say that I don't want you guys to do other competitions. I just think that Rebel has proven to be the best. And this is kind of the idea. The ideas that we got from this have been kind of observing you guys and obviously the rest of the field during the competition. So not necessarily like we're going to start training now for it, but basically I think that's like the big goal for the year in S. Well, I think as far as we understand that things are staying the same for next year. Who knows what CrossFit does after that. Okay. So off-season will start from 23rd of June somewhere around to the start of October. I think it's like 12 to 14 weeks. And basically what we're going to do, then we'll introduce some more CrossFit stuff later on. And when we're like 10 to 12 weeks out of competition, or our main competition for the year, or something that we're really, really pushing forward or pushing towards, we will start, doing some normal CrossFit and loads of conditioning and stuff. So don't worry if you feel like you're going to get fat now, you're going to put on some weight. We actually want you to. Idea is to try to get strong over this off-season block. Because pretty much we're not going to be doing CrossFit. We're going to stay away from any kipping gymnastics. We're just going to do strict work. We're not going to do any barbell cycling. We're not going to do any CrossFit Metcons. The conditioning pieces are going to be quite set. And they're basically going to be like lower impact on the body, with the middle day of the week having some. Anyway, more on that later. So the main focus for the off-season block is going to be gymnastic strength and overall, like we call it, barbell strength. Reason for this is kind of one of the biggest mistakes we see, at least South African athletes making, is they are like doing these overseas programs. Like, think about Hardwick Fazorf, Proven, Sentinel, I guess, to some degree. Although I don't know much about that one. Mayhem, obviously the big one, is that these are almost catered for people who have the base requirements of the sport down from a strength perspective, right? Which is, to be honest, I don't think really any of us in South Africa. So the biggest difference we see is the level of strength. Now, this is particularly evident on the female leaderboard of the Rebel individual. You can see the top 4 females, there's a huge gap or huge drop-off after that in terms of points. And obviously, I think the biggest discrepancy of those ladies is that they're all really, really strong. And that's not also really strong when it comes to just barbell work, but also to their gymnastics work. If we look at Christina, her gymnastics stuff is phenomenal, but she's obviously extremely strong when it comes to gymnastics work. And basically what we do is we need to get our level up a little bit higher to try to get close to that, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to give you guys an example when it comes to this. Anyway, so if you talk about like Christina, for example, or whatever higher level games athlete, because they have this base level of fitness and stuff, a base level of strength, they can do their CrossFit stuff. And we can't necessarily do CrossFit stuff to get stronger. You will get stronger, but you won't maximize the strength. Okay, it's not to say CrossFit won't make you stronger, but we basically need to get you guys as fast there as possible. And it's really hard to do that while we are doing so much conditioning stuff. So example of this, obviously I'm a big Matt Fraser fan, obviously a big Fikowski fan. They're quite two polar figures in the sense of how they trained for their CrossFit. So one was winning strength events, and basically at least at the start of their career, finishing bottom of the conditioning. Where Fikowski was completely opposite. He was winning conditioning events and basically coming dead last on any kind of strength event, at least when it involved legs. And we are similar in that regard, in the sense of that we are just not at a certain level yet when it comes to strength work. So we need to get our strength up. So Fikowski's training for the majority of his career would be strength related, because he had his conditioning down. And Fraser's, if you obviously have done part of hard work, which a few of us have, is a lot of conditioning and not much strength work. So he didn't have to get his strength, I just had to maintain. You don't necessarily lose your strength the more conditioning you do. Obviously you can to a certain point, but while you are trying to get stronger, we need to limit the amount of conditioning. Okay, so basically that is what we call the concurrent training effect. So think about when you're doing strength training, you want these adaptations to happen. And if you do conditioning on top of it within a certain time frame, so usually one after the other, within the same day, your strength adaptations decrease. They aren't maximized as much as possible. So you may say, well, why on earth do we strength train and condition during on-season? Well, you can still actually get really fit. So the strength work doesn't impact your VO2 max. So you can still get really fit while doing strength work, but you can't get really strong while doing conditioning work. So they kind of counterbalance that as we go along. So while we are in season, obviously we'll still lift, we'll still try and maintain strength, whilst trying to get obviously extremely fit. But when it comes to getting strong, it's really hard to get strong while still doing a bunch of conditioning work. So it's called the concurrent training effect. You guys can look that up if you want to as you go along. Okay, well, the goal is to get nice and strong. So how are we going to do this? Well, simply, to start, we're going to go the barbell strength stuff to start. We're going to start with a 12-week squat cycle. Nothing crazy, just a linear progression. Back squat focus with some pause front squats in there. And this is going to just be some basic progressive overload. And that will last for the full 12 weeks. If we need to do something more aggressive later on before we start our conditioning stuff, we may do that. I think we may have like 1 or 2 weeks to mess around with. We may try to push you guys a little bit there as we go along. Excuse me, that was pretty gross. So this will be coupled with, so we have 2 days of the week we'll do barbell work. Reason for only 2 days a week as well is because we are in off season. Now, I could quite easily put you guys on like a 5-day squat cycle. It's not going to feel like an off season. You're going to be incredibly beat up. We want some time for recovery. We want you guys to feel better, all sorts of stuff. Like I said, the idea is not to absolutely destroy you. It's to have some time off the gym, not even actually off the gym, just time to get stronger and feel better, and potentially do some other stuff outside. We're going to be doing a lot of additional, what we call like accessory work. Now, I don't want to call it accessory work now because the value is almost decreased. This is going to be like the big part of actually getting stronger. So we're going to do, I'll go through this, but this is going to be the stuff that we take pretty close to failure in our movements. And this will be targeted obviously around the glutes, hammies, quads. So think about like things like Bulgarian split squats, RDLs, box step ups, Cossack squats or side lunges, glute ham raises, stuff like that we'll be doing all the time. And that's kind of where we're going to make you stronger. I feel like I missed something quite important. Yes, so we're going to do these movements also regularly. So the idea of this is that we're going to do 12 weeks, at least on the strength work, which is going to look very similar for 12 weeks. Now, I know this is going to be incredibly boring, but basically what we want out of this is, there's a term called the repeated bout effect. So basically what we want and how we get you guys stronger is an increase in muscle mass. An increase in muscle mass means we need to get those muscles to grow. And how we do that is we try almost reduce muscle soreness, essentially. So think about when you do something new for the first time, you get this like really new stimulus or sensation of being extremely sore. And then that kind of fades away after a while, the more you repeat it. But usually muscle soreness is not a good indicator of muscle growth. So the more sore you are after a session, the kind of less the muscle will grow and repair itself into a place which will promote muscle growth. So basically what we're going to do is, at least for the first 2 weeks or so, guys might be a bit sore, but after that, you should get used to the progressions, and then you can go from week to week, going heavier, getting better, seeing some progress, which is really important, and that should promote as much muscle growth as possible. Yes. So it is actually really important. So often we think like, am I even getting better at these things? You should hopefully see some week-to-week progressions, and the difficulty should like feel better. So normally we'll probably do like 2 weeks similar, And then the next week we'll go heavier, slightly maybe heavier RPE or like a heavier weight, for example. We'll keep the RPE the same, maybe reduce the reps slightly. Okay, we're also going a lot of off RPE stuff. So depending on how you're feeling in the day, there won't be many prescribed percentages beside the small amount of lifting we'll be doing, and obviously the squatting we'll keep percentage-wise going there. Okay, I think that's mostly the barbell stuff. Again, there's nothing really crazy about it. A lot of the stuff we would have done before, but it's more, remember, the big emphasis is going to be on that, inverted commas, the accessory work or the additional leg strength work that we're going to be doing. That's going to be the most important part. Okay, now onto the more stuff we're not used to. So I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. So we're programming some gymnastic stuff, so mainly around push-pull and midline. I don't really know how else to say it. We're going to be doing gymnastic strength training. So basically how I want you to look at this is a 5x5 back squat day is what you're going to be doing for a gymnastic strength day. And I'll go through this stuff and you'll see it once it's in Octave. But we'll do this for a little bit less. So this will be 6 weeks of similar progressions, but pretty much the same thing, 6 weeks. If you can make it harder, you'll make it harder. The reality is that some of us will need lots of time for this, fortunately or unfortunately. So this stuff can actually realistically take years to get better at. That's not a joke, I mean years. Some of us will have some good progress in this as we go along. But we do need this, as we do like 12 weeks to 14 weeks is hopefully enough time to make some small measurable gains as we go along, at least while the off season starts. At least while we're in the off season. So let's just see what I've written down here. Yeah, so basically what will happen is, because this stuff will be relatively new for most of us, we'll have this like neural adaptation. It'll be like your body's like getting used to these different positions, the different feeling of it, and then obviously the same style as our barbell strength stuff. We will put on a bit more muscle mass when it comes to these things, and a bit more strength when it comes to these things. These, however, won't be as hard on the body, and they don't elicit as much of like a CNS response, which is why we kind of couple these slightly with some conditioning pieces, which will show you later on as we go along. So the barbell stuff, because is a far more demand in terms of muscle contraction and endurance and on your CNS, we try limit the proximity of conditioning to those days. Slightly different for gymnastics days. So you may think that you're very strong at gymnastics already and your muscular endurance is holding you back. And we will obviously work directly on muscular endurance in the season, but basically the base of getting better muscular endurance is more strength. So think about, again, we can think about the barbell option even compared to gymnastics. We can just apply one to the other. If I'm thrusting 50 kilograms and my max is 70 or 80, it's an extremely high percentage. My body is working overtime for muscular contractions to do that repetition. The stronger I am, the less I have to work, basically. And it'll be the same in gymnastics. If I can bang out a set of 40 strict handstand push-ups, I need to do like 6 per round. That's obviously an extreme case, but like you get the idea of how little work that would be for somebody who is doing that, as opposed to, my max set of handstand push-ups is 10 and I have to do 8 per round. I'm like, ooh, that's tough. So basically that's what we're doing for. Okay, without going too much into it, I'm going to give you guys a weekly overview. Actually, let's go into the strength thing. So this might scare some of you. So I kind of got this from, I saw this online somewhere, and I thought it was quite applicable to Africa and South Africa. So for a female, I'm going to say female podium chaser. This is teams or individual. Versus like a competitive open athlete. Okay, so your snatch, let's go there. We're going to go snatch, clean jerk, back squat, front squat, thruster, overhead squat, power clean, bench, weighted pull-up. You should be snatching as a competitive open athlete, 70 kilograms, or if you're chasing a podium, or trying to do high, place up or be competitive amongst females, 85 kilograms. For the clean and jerk, for the open, you should be clean jerking around 90, and competitive from there would be 108. Back squat 111 to 130, front squat 102 to 120, thrusters 75 to 90, Overhead squat 78 to 90, power clean 78 to 95, bench press 78 to 90, and weighted pull-up 78 to 90. There's obviously some small pound conversions there. The weighted pull-up would be plus your own body weight. Okay. For the males, to be like a competitive open level athlete, or at least versus podium chaser, like really pushing up, snatch would be 111 to 120, clean and jerk 135 to 148, back squat 170 to 185, front squat 155 to 170, thruster 110 to 125, overhead squat 115 to 130, power clean 120 to 130, bench 120 to 130, and weighted pull-up 120 to 130. Now, to give you an idea for the males, for a podium chaser male, I would only pass 2 of those. One is the power clean and one is the weighted pull-up. So weighted pull-up, I can pull 40 kilograms extra of my body weight, and I can power clean 130. I used to be able to. So I only mix 2 of those categories. It basically means I have a huge leg deficiency, which I already know. So I don't meet any of the squats, and obviously the clean and jerk and the snatch would be squat related, and I don't bench that much. I wish I did. Anyway, give you an idea. So like my goals would be to be quite a competitive male athlete. I can obviously see just through these general things. Now, if you want to go back and listen to those numbers again, you can. Those are more barbell strength oriented movements. The gymnastics and the conditioning stuff would be quite hard, much more difficult to find because I didn't know people's numbers and stuff that well. I think there are a few of us guys who can do most of these things in surplus even quite easily, particularly when it comes to the barbell stuff with the stronger guys. But I don't think any of our girls, any of the females are actually close to this. So we got work to do pretty much, which is good. Okay, on to what the weeks are going to look like. So training priorities, gymnastic strength training, GST. Then we got lower body strength, and then our third one is conditioning. So Monday we're going to snatch from blocks, just powers and squats at a very light percentage, working on a technique. And the reason why we're choosing from blocks is, one, it just reduces the intensity, so it's not as hard on the body, which I feel like is just makes sense in the off-season. Also, I just want you guys to work on some positions and stuff. I'll write some notes in Octave as we go along. Monday we got the back squats, front squats, linear progressions. We got the split squats. We got the glute ham raises, and we got some seal rows for your lower back, back work going from there. Tuesday is our big gymnastic strength training day. We're starting with some close grip bench press. That's not this grip, but it's also not wide grip. It's somewhere in between. So where if you bar touches your chest, your arms are off your rib cage pretty much. Normal weighted chin over pull-ups to start, and we're going to have a focus on wall-facing handstand push-ups to begin with, which we'll swap to normal handstand push-ups afterwards, or normal facing. I'm a bit unsure of the wall-facing handstand push-up if we are ever going to see it in like a rebel competition again, just because I feel like the limitation on the females, but at the same time, if we see like a mayhem coming program rebel again, very likely that it pulls up, it pops up again. We're going to work on legless rope climbs. So we've got some rope pull-ups. We'll start this. We're going to strive for an L-sit straddle rope climb, literally in an L-sit. And then after this, we're going to work some abs. So we're going to do some GHD work, which we saw was quite popular this last time. We're not going to do that in volume. We're going to do tempo work on GHDs and some strict toes to bar on this day currently. Wednesday is going to be a rest day, / a zone 2. That'll be more of an individual basis for you guys. So if you want to speak to me about doing some extra training on a Wednesday, come speak to me. Do not run, however. Okay. Thursday we got push press plus split jerk. This is going to be just again like a linear progression for 6 weeks, and we'll change it slightly as we go from there. Just working on some technique. Then we got some weighted feet, elevated ring rows. I'm going to show you these as we go along. And then today is going to be our first conditioning piece of the week, which is actually not as intense. What we're going to do here is like work on some basic hinging and some slight pressing to begin with. So, and these will be starting slow and increasing pace as we go along. So one, we're going to reduce your intensity by starting slow and give you an idea of what it feels like to pace correctly. And what you have to do out of these sessions is get negative splits. So you have to go faster every round. So you have to pace it. If you don't go faster every round, you have failed. Because this shouldn't be as intense, the conditioning is fine, which we lead into the next day, which is our leg day again. So we got some block work again and some power cleans, very similar, the same as Monday pretty much, just slightly higher up. We're going to work more from the hang, which is knee up. Then we got the back squats, then we got box step ups, Cossack squats or lateral lunges, and then some RDLs, which will be our big leg day. Saturday, we're going to do some gymnastics training again. We're going to have some neutral grip push-ups. So like think about parallel push-ups. We'll probably add some weight to these for you guys. Pull up negatives to start. Reason for this is think about like coming down from a muscle up, your butterfly pull-ups, your chest to bars. There's a huge eccentric movement to that motion, which we very rarely train. We're going to start 6 weeks of just doing negatives from there, and then we'll do some very basic ab work, just some hollow holds pretty much. And we're going to start off Saturday's conditioning with Miko's triangle progression. A few of us have done this progression before. I don't claim to have done this myself in the sense of programmed it. I've taken it from another training place, which a few of us have done. I think that will be 7 or 8 weeks long. That will keep your fitness quite high. I remember doing this, I think, coming back from being sick and or injured. And I even got like a really, really bad score at the start, but by the time I finished this progression, I was really, really fit, particularly on those machines. My stuff went through the roof. I must have got like 60 or 80 more cals in my retests, so which was like crazy. Okay, I think that is it for now. If you made it this far, congratulations. If you haven't watched this at all, can't help you. But that's basically where we are taking the program for the next kind of back end of or middle of the year. I can't think if there's anything else that I missed, but obviously remember I am always available, hopefully. Maybe not on the first week of your program, I'll be away, but outside of that, if you need, there will be some specific adjustments that each of you will need on the gymnastic stuff. But I think I've been quite clear in terms of what I would like out of those as we're going along. But I'm quite excited about this. I think there are going to be some really, really good gains and PBs, and yeah, it's going to be cool.